Emerging Threats Hub. Crossroads.
Welcome to Emerging Threats Hub. I'm your host, Sébastien. Imagine you're a soldier on a modern battlefield. You hear a buzz. Is it a $1,000 drone carrying a grenade or a $1 million missile? The answer, and how you respond, is redefining modern conflict and forcing a global rethink of what power really means. This week, we're standing at a series of critical crossroads. We will examine how an old-school anti-aircraft gun is challenging the logic of billion-dollar defense systems. We will then turn to the Arctic Circle, where a new Russian test of a nuclear-powered cruise missile, the Burevestnik, signals a dangerous escalation in strategic thinking. Finally, we will journey beneath the Earth's surface to uncover the quiet, high-stakes battle for the critical minerals that power our world, from our smartphones to our electric vehicles, and yes, our advanced weapon systems. These aren't isolated stories. They are interconnected threads in a tapestry of shifting power, where the race for resources, the march of technology, and the timeless dance of diplomacy are colliding. In this episode, we will unpack three major themes. First, the unsettling return of nuclear saber-rattling and its impact on global stability. Second, the silent war for the minerals that underpin the green and digital revolutions. And third, the perilous diplomatic tightrope being walked over flashpoints like Taiwan and Ukraine. Let's begin.
New rules of engagement.
Our first story brings us to Sweden, a nation with a long history of innovative defense engineering. They're fielding a weapon that seems like a relic, the ELVKV-94, a 40mm anti-aircraft cannon. It's a concept from the last century, a rapid-fire gun designed to shred low-flying aircraft. So why is it making a comeback in the age of stealth bombers and hypersonic missiles? The answer is in the sky over Ukraine. The war has demonstrated that cheap, commercially available drones are one of the most effective and disruptive weapons on the modern battlefield. A swarm of drones, each costing a few $100s, can overwhelm a multi-million-dollar air defense system like the Patriot or Aegis. These systems, designed to shoot down fast jets and complex missiles, are overkill for a slow-moving quadcopter, and they run out of expensive interceptors very quickly. The Swedish Levik 1940, by contrast, can fire hundreds of rounds per minute. A single shell is vastly cheaper than a missile. It's a low-tech, high-impact solution to a very 21st century problem. This isn't an isolated trend. We're seeing a global resurgence in so-called dumb weapons cannons, guns, and even guided rockets that are cost-effective at swarming the cheap, smart threats that now dominate the battlefield. It's a powerful reminder that technological advantage isn't just about having the most advanced system. It's about having the right system for the threat you face. The Pentagon's own reports have highlighted this vulnerability, noting that their existing air and missile defenses are not optimized for the drone threat. This shift challenges the very foundation of Western defense planning, which has for decades prioritized quality. The calculus is changing, and the implications are profound.
A nuclear echo.
That Swedish cannon is a low-tech answer to a high-tech problem. But what happens when the problem isn't cheap drones, but exotic, high-tech threats that challenge the very rules of war? For that, we turn to the Arctic Circle, and a chilling echo from the Cold War. Norway recently confirmed that Russia conducted a test of the 9M730 Burevestnik, a name that translates to Petrel. This isn't just any cruise missile. It is nuclear-powered. This is a concept from the darkest days of the Cold War, one that most strategists hoped had remained on the drawing board. A nuclear-powered missile would, in theory, have a near-infinite range. It could loiter for days or weeks, flying unpredictable patterns to bypass missile defenses before striking its target anywhere on Earth. The development of such a weapon is a blatant violation of the spirit, if not the letter, of existing arms control agreements, and represents a monumental step backward in strategic stability. Now, before we give in to alarmism, we must apply context. U.S. intelligence reports indicate that the Burevestnik program has been plagued by failures, with at least 12 crashes during testing, including one that caused a major radiological incident in Russia in 2019. The immediate threat may be more aspirational than operational. However, the very act of testing it is a powerful signal. It's Russia's way of reminding the world of its nuclear capabilities and its willingness to develop exotic new systems to overcome perceived Western superiority. It's a form of geopolitical signaling designed to create uncertainty and force NATO to divert resources to counter a threat that may not even be fully viable. This is part of a broader pattern where nuclear rhetoric is being used more openly as a tool of statecraft, dangerously eroding the firewall that has prevented nuclear use for over 75 years. This echo from the Cold War forces us to confront a fundamental question. How do we maintain strategic stability in an era where old taboos are fading and new technologies are making the battlefield more unpredictable than ever? A weapon with near-infinite range, designed to be unpredictable, it fundamentally changes the calculation of deterrence. What does that do to the idea of strategic stability?
The Great Power Chessboard.
The nuclear test from Russia doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's one move on a vast and complex global chessboard, where great powers are redefining their relationships. A key dynamic we are tracking is the evolution of the BRICS alliance: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, which recently expanded to include Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the UAE. Analysis from sources like Foreign Affairs and Chatham House suggests a troubling trend. U.S. foreign policy, particularly its use of sanctions and what is perceived as unilateral action, is inadvertently pushing this diverse group of nations toward a more cohesive anti-American bloc. They may not have a unified ideology, but their shared desire to operate outside of a U.S.-centric world order is a powerful motivator. This isn't about creating a new Cold War bloc overnight, but about creating a pole of power that can challenge Western dominance in institutions like the UN and the World Bank. This fragmentation of the global order makes it harder to build consensus on everything from climate change to non-proliferation. But the chessboard isn't just about confrontation. There are also moves towards de-escalation. The most significant and most fragile of these is a recently proposed framework for a U.S.-China truce over Taiwan. This isn't a formal peace treaty, but a diplomatic understanding aimed at creating guardrails to prevent a miscalculation that could lead to catastrophic conflict. The framework reportedly involves mutual commitments to limit military activity near Taiwan and establish clearer red lines. For it to work, it would require immense political will on both sides and a renewed commitment to the principles of international law, like freedom of navigation and non-interference. It's a slender thread of hope in a relationship defined by deep suspicion. The viability of this truce is perhaps the single most important question for global peace in the coming decade. It represents a crucial test of whether great powers can manage their rivalry without sliding into conflict.
The war beneath our feet.
Our final story takes us deep underground, to the front lines of a conflict that receives far less attention, but is no less critical: the battle for critical minerals. The European Union has officially launched a landmark initiative to secure its own supply chains for everything from lithium and cobalt to rare earth elements. Why does this matter so much? Because these minerals are the bedrock of the modern economy. They are essential for the green transition, in the batteries of electric vehicles, and the turbines of wind farms. They are essential for our digital lives, in the microchips that power our phones and computers. And they are increasingly essential for modern defense systems, in precision-guided munitions, advanced sensors, and communications gear. For years, the world has been dangerously dependent on a single country for the processing of many of these minerals: China. This gives Beijing immense geopolitical leverage. An export restriction could cripple Western manufacturing and defense industries overnight. The EU's plan is a long overdue recognition of this strategic vulnerability. It's an industrial and geopolitical strategy aimed at diversifying suppliers, boosting recycling, and developing mining and processing capacity within Europe itself. This is a sleeper story that will define the 21st century. The resource competition of the past was for oil. The resource competition of the future is for the elements of the periodic table. This minerals war won't be fought with tanks and jets, but with trade deals, investments in mining projects in Africa and South America, and technological competition in processing and recycling. It intertwines economic security climate goals, and national defense into a single complex challenge. The EU's move is a clear sign that the world's major powers see this not just as an economic issue, but as a core element of national security. Navigating this new resource landscape without sparking new conflicts will require a level of resource diplomacy and international cooperation that we have yet to achieve. So, what connects the story of a Swedish anti-aircraft gun, a Russian nuclear missile, and an EU plan for critical minerals? They are all symptoms of a world in transition. The old certainties of a unipolar world are fading, replaced by a more complex, contested, and multipolar reality. We see the return of great power competition, but it's playing out in new domains, not just in the skies and on the seas, but in cyberspace, in our supply chains, and in the very minerals that make up our technology. The challenges are immense. The erosion of arms control, the risk of fragmentation, and the hidden vulnerabilities in our systems. But within these challenges lie the pathways to solutions. The EU's mineral strategy is an example of proactive long-term planning. The framework for a Taiwan Truce, however fragile, shows that diplomacy is still a vital tool. And the adaptation to drone warfare shows that innovation and practical thinking can counter even the most disruptive threats. The path to a more stable future will be defined by our ability to see these connections, to prioritize cooperation over conflict, and to build resilient systems based on international law and mutual interest. It requires us to be vigilant, analytical, and above all, committed to the hard, patient work of architecting peace. Thank you for joining me on Emerging Threats Hub. To continue the conversation, leave a comment or connect using the hashtag Emerging Threats Hub. I'm Sébastien.